everyone. I'm Abigail. This is Megan, and welcome to another Two Kids interview.
We are joined by New York Times bestselling author Barbara O'Connor.
Some of Ms. O'Connor's books include Wonderland, Halfway to Harmony, How to Steal a Dog,
Greetings from Nowhere, The Fantastic Secrets of Owen Jester,
and the New York Times bestseller Wish.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me. I was very much looking forward to it.
You write children's books. How are your books influenced by your own childhood?
Very much so, because I have to work hard to try to remember what it was like when I was 9, 10, 11 years old. And I have some pretty good memories. That's one reason my books are set in the South, because I grew up in the South. So when I think about being a kid, that's where I am. So those are the memories that come up, the way the weather was and the way people talk and things they eat. So yeah, I think back to those sorts of things so I can be a child again. Use my imagination.
Is there anything you can remember writing during your childhood that you're still proud of?
Yeah, I'm going to show you something. Don't go away. Stay right there. So it's going to take me 2 seconds. Hold on. This is the very first book I ever wrote, right here. I was about 12 when I wrote this book. It's falling apart now. It's so old. I put lots of notebook paper in there, so I have a nice long book, but there's a lot of blank pages. But it is, I'll show you, 72 pages long. 72 pages. So that's pretty good for a kid. I put some pictures in here. I drew some illustrations, but there's one problem with this book. I'm going to read to you the very last sentence. Okay, here's the last sentence. Well, be careful and I never finished it, and I stopped right in the middle of a sentence. So that's kind of crazy, right? But I still have it. I found it in my mother's attic one time, and I thought, oh, wow, I remember that book. So I did love to write a lot when I was young.
When a child reads one of your books, what do you hope they will get out of it?
I never write a book to teach a lesson. I don't like that. But if you learn something from the book, that's great. That's a bonus. But mostly, I just want you to enjoy reading the story. A lot of my books, they do have something you can take away from the story, like How to Steal a Dog. Of course, I mean, we know you're not supposed to steal dogs, duh. But you learned a little bit about honesty and how to maybe empathize with people who don't have as much as we do. She lived in her car, which was unfortunate. So I don't set out to do that, but if I do along the way, that's good. But mainly I just want to write a good story that you'll enjoy.
How do you come up with the ideas for your books?
Well, a lot of different ways. Sometimes the idea just drops out of the sky out of nowhere, and that's pretty fun. But sometimes I see something like this. I'll show you. There. That's what inspired me to write How to Steal a Dog. Somebody lost a little dog named Willie, and they were offering $2,000 reward, which caught my eye. That's a lot of money, right, for a little dog. And then that became a book. I thought about why would anybody steal a dog? Sometimes Halfway to Harmony, I was thinking about hot air balloons for some reason, and they're so cool. And I was driving in the grocery store, and I looked up, and there was a hot air balloon right up in the sky ahead of me. And I thought, well, that was the sign. I was meant to write that book, which was sort of inspired. I'm living right now. I live in the Blue Ridge Mountains where Charlie lived, the main character. But I moved away for a long time. But when I moved back, I thought, I want to write a book that has a setting of the mountains like that. So different ways.
When you decided to become a children's author, did you worry at all if you could do it?
Did I worry if I could do it? No, not at first, because I thought, well, how hard can that be? And then I started getting a whole bunch of rejection letters, and I thought, this is harder than I thought it was going to be. So I had to learn, I took some classes. I read. That's the best thing you can do to learn about writing. Read children's books. I was a grown-up, so I hadn't read children's books in a long time. And it was discouraging to get rejections, but I just kept going. And then eventually I got published by a really good editor, and I stayed with her for 18 years. She passed away, but I'm still at the same publisher. So yeah, I feel like I can do it now. Although every time I finish a book, I always feel like, oh no, I'll never get another idea, but somehow I just do.
What is your process when putting a book together?
Do you decide the end before the middle?
Oh.
Or do you put it together in order?
Okay. I have a very frustrating process because I'm a very organized person, and I love to see things all neat and tidy in a row. And it would be heaven to write an outline of a story from beginning, middle, end. That would just be so great. But it never happens that way for me. I get a fuzzy little idea, and then I get a character, and I think about the character, and then I usually have a very fuzzy idea of the ending. I sort of know where I'm going, but all the middle and all that stuff is a big blur. But the story comes with the act of writing. When I sit down to write, the story begins to unfold for me. It's very frustrating for me, but that's my process, unfortunately. And I write by hand. I'm an old dinosaur like that. I like to write by hand, but then of course I have to type it over because my editor doesn't want that. And then I go through bunches and bunches of revisions, and use years to get a book published, from start to finish.
After you finished your first draft, how long does it take for you to revise the book?
Okay, I'm going to show you something else. Stay right there. Don't go away. Sorry, you guys. I should have been more organized. So I type up. I have it all written out. I use these special little notebooks. This is like the little notebook that I use. I have very, very messy handwriting. I like to scribble and scratch out. That's why I like to write by hand. But then I type it up and I send it in, and that is what is the very first draft. This is the very first draft. What book? This is Wish. So I think, well, okay, that was easy. I've sent it off. Now I'll wait for my book to come, but my book doesn't come. My manuscript comes back. There's another version. That's the second draft. You probably can't really see things, but there's markings and things on there. And then there is a third draft. It's another one. Getting a little bit closer. Now it's been typeset, so it looks more like the pages of a book, but it still sees all those red marks there. And then here's another draft right here. It's getting a little more like a book. Whoops, is that the fourth? Yeah, that's the fourth. No, that one came before. Sorry, see all those red marks? That one came before this one. This was the last one. So my point is, it takes a long time because it takes a lot of revision. It goes from me to my editor, me to my editor. And so the first draft probably takes me about 5 or 6 months, and the revisions probably take about 8 or 9 months, something like that. And sometimes longer. So, I know kids get frustrated when they have to revise, but it's just part of the process. It just makes the book get better and better and better, even though it can be very frustrating.
What writer has had the most influence on you?
I knew you were going to ask that question. Right here in my box. That book is called Missing May by Cynthia Rylant. It's very old. You probably don't, you might not even have this at your school. It won a Newbery or a Newbery Honor, which is, I can't see without my glasses, but I love this book because it has a very strong sense of place. It takes place in the mountains of Kentucky, where she grew up as a child, and that inspired me to write stories with a strong sense of place. So she very much influences me. She also has a very unique writing voice. That means writing voice means what makes your writing different from everybody else's. You and all three of us could, somebody said, okay, write a story about a boy whose teacher turns into a frog and gets on a spaceship and goes to the moon. And we could all three write the same story, but it would be different because we're three different people and we have different writing voices, right?
What advice do you have for young people who want to write?
Okay. First, you have to do three things. You have to read, read, read. That's the best thing you can do. Because if you read something you like, think about why you like it. Is it because it has a lot of action, has a lot of description, you like the characters? Or if you don't like it, why don't you like it? Does it not have enough dialogue? Whatever. So that's number one. But the second thing is that really will help your writing is remember to show the reader what you want them to know instead of telling them. Here's what I mean. Instead of writing, he was mad, that's telling, show them. He stormed out of the room and slammed the door, right? So it makes your writing more descriptive. You could say her room was a mess. That's telling. Or you could say, there were toys and clothes all over the floor. A pizza box from last week's dinner was under the bed. Her beds weren't made. The clothes were all over or whatever. And, then you show a messy room. That's my advice. Free of charge.
How to Steal a Dog was made into a movie in South Korea
and can be watched on Amazon Prime.
Which of your other books could you see being made into a movie?
All of them. Well, I think Wish would be fun. I think Halfway to Harmony would really be fun because of the hot air balloons, because they're so cool. Yeah, it'd be fun to see any of them. I would take any of them. It's really hard to get that done, though, but you never know, right?
Do you have any other projects in the works that you can tell us about?
I do. And I haven't told very many people, so you'll be one of the very first ones. I'm writing a companion novel to Wish. A companion novel is not the same as a sequel. A sequel picks up the same characters and everything, same setting, and it takes up where the last book left off. So I would take it after, I won't spoil the ending, but after the ending of Wish, then I would start and move forward with a different story. But a companion novel has new characters, main characters, and is set in the same place, but then you bring in the characters from Wish as secondary characters. So Charlie and Howard will be in the new book, but they're not the main characters. So that's what I'm doing. It's been fun.
Finally, it's time for our Turbo 10.
10 rapid fire questions.
Oh,
Are
no.
you ready?
Am I what?
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Number 1, what is your favorite phrase to use?
If you can't get out of it, get into it. Okay.
What is one subject you'd love to learn more about?
Music, playing the piano. I would love to do that.
3, what is your go-to snack food?
Go-to snack food. Well, I love me a good potato chip. That's for sure.
4, what was your favorite book growing up?
My favorite book growing up. I knew you were going to ask that too. I loved these mysteries, Trixie Belden. And there were a whole bunch of mysteries. They're real old now, but I love to read. I read every single one of them.
5, if you could teleport somewhere right now, where would you go?
I would go to Fiji. Sit on the beach.
6, if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Superpower. I think flying would be pretty cool. I'd like to fly.
7, what was your favorite cartoon as a kid?
I like to watch. I loved, of course, Bugs Bunny and Porky Pig and those guys. And I read a lot of comic books, and I used to love Archie and Little Lulu. There was one called Little Lulu. I don't think she's around anymore.
What's your favorite day? What's your favorite rainy day activity?
Doing jigsaw puzzles and binging something on Netflix. Eating potato chips.
9. If you could have any 3 dinner guests, who would they be?
Ooh, well, 1, 2. That takes care of 2. But besides you guys, I'd love to have Dolly Parton, because I love her music. And I'd love to have President Obama. And I'd love to have Mother Teresa.
And what's the best piece of advice you were ever given?
If you can't get out of it, get into it.
You did great. Thank you so much for doing that.
And Miss O'Connor, thank you for spending this time with us.
We appreciate it so much.
And we cannot wait to read your future books.
Well, I have to say thank you so much. You young ladies are so fun and smart and articulate, and it was just, yeah, I had a lot of fun. I'm really proud of you, and I hope you're proud of yourselves. You did a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.